morning, everyone. Thank you for coming out on this beautiful morning. It is incredible to have church in the morning again, as they said. Those fresh wake-ups and those fresh prayers. It's awesome. It's awesome. So today, this whole year, we've actually been going through the Miracle series. And we are 10 months deep, and there's still so many miracles to go. But today, we're going to be looking at another one of them. We're looking at Elisha performing miracles in a Shunammite woman's life. He prophesies that she will have a son, and then when tragedy strikes, he goes and resurrects her son. And so we've seen a majority of miracles throughout this year, throughout this series. And I was looking through the Old Testament of who did the most miracles, and clearly it's Moses in the Old Testament by a landslide, easily. But the runner-up is actually Elisha, who we're looking at today. He did 28 in total, which was double his mentors, which might have kind of ties into that whole double portion of your spirit thing. But we've already seen him part the Jordan River, heal the waters of Jericho, the curse of the bears we looked at. We looked at water supply to the armies in Moab and the endless oil in the jars. Today we will see him resurrect someone from the dead. And to be honest, we've been going through this, we've been preparing for this October campaign, a month of fun, if you haven't heard of it, where we're planning to go out and just do a bunch of crazy fun things and invite people to church along the way. And so Wednesday, me and my group, we sat down and we planned out a bunch of different things. I think we're going to do laser tag and karaoke, escape room. We're going to go to the zoo. We're going to go to the aquarium. I even found there is a disco Friday night ice skating. And so I think after Bible talk, we'll, finish it off and then we'll go and get our boogie on or something. I don't even know. But it's just a cool way this month to invite people. Yeah, okay, I won't be doing the dancing. I'll stick to the side or whatever. But we're just going to have a lot of fun this month and invite a lot of people as we go. And honestly, yesterday we went through a bunch of our old contacts and called people and texted people, invited them to say, hey, church is now at 10, or hey, come and have fun with us this month. And to be honest, it kind of felt like resurrecting from the dead, dusting off some of these old contacts that have been in your phone for way too long, but calling these old friends of ours up. And it's awesome to see some of them out here today. Seeing Danny here. Welcome back, Danny. Alex, our dear friend. Ash, even good to see it. Like, it's incredible just to see that, us just taking the time to love our friends and what the impact that can have. And so, there was just some incredible news. Like, even, I know Maddie was sharing, she called up someone, and this girl was just like, thank you so much for calling me. I've been, cutting everyone off for 2 months. Like, I've been so busy. I just want friends. Yes, I'll come out and do laser tag with you, whatever you do. I just want friends and to have fun. So it's just awesome to really see the impact of us going out and just really loving people. But let's get into the scripture here. 2 Kings chapter 4, verse 8 to 17. We see the Shunammite woman here. She is passionate, but she's petrified. It says here, one day Elisha went to Shunem, and a well-to-do woman was there, who urged him to stay for a meal. So whenever he came by, he stopped there to eat. She said to her husband, I know that this man who often comes our way is a holy man of God. Let's make a small room on the roof and put in a bed and a table, a chair and a lamp for him. Then he can stay there whenever he comes to us. One day, when Elisha came, he went up to his room and lay down there. He said to his servant Gehazi, call the Shunammite. So he called her, and she stood before him. Elisha said to him, tell her, you have gone to all this trouble for us. Now what can be done for you? Can we speak on your behalf to the king or the commander of the army? She replied, I have a home among my own people. What can be done for her? Elisha asked. Gehazi said, she has no son, and her husband is old. Then Elisha said, call her. So he called her, and she stood in the doorway. About this time next year, Elisha said, you will hold a son in your arms. No, my lord, she objected. Please, man of God, don't mislead your servant. But the woman became pregnant, and the next year, about that same time, she gave birth to a son, just as Elisha had told her. So here we see this incredibly passionate and just a woman with a lot of heart. She urged the prophet to come in for a meal, to the point where every time he was in the area, he would stop by. He felt so welcome. And then she gave him his own room. She very much knew how to host. She was incredibly hospitable. And so, I thought, sometimes we can definitely learn from this Shunammite woman. If we, have Bible talks and people don't show up or they're not returning, it's like, hey man, maybe we can learn from the Shunammite woman. I know there was a time in my life when I was leading Bible discussion, and completely on me, where no one was coming out for weeks on end. I'm like, what is happening? And as I dug more into it, I wasn't listening to advice the sisters were giving me, and I wasn't really helping my group at all. And so once I actually just listened, and they were like, yeah, the house doesn't just feel welcoming at all. We changed house; it was a lot nicer, and people felt comfortable enough to come by. And so that's really an encouragement. Sisters always have great, hospitable homes. So that's a good little tip there. Brothers, clean up your houses. But here we see that Elisha felt so welcome, he was compelled to perform a miracle in her life. She was also petrified of Elisha performing this miracle and begged him not to. Elisha prophesies she will hold a son in her arms. But this woman, whose husband is old and has no son, yet still asks him, please, I don't want this. And you have to think, why would someone ask for that? But it may have been that she was afraid of being hurt. All of the doubts that may have come rushing into her head. What if I'm not a good mother? What if my husband passes away as he's old and I'm left to raise this child on my own? What if something happens? Anything could happen really in raising a child. But I think personally, we can have the same reaction when it comes to us bearing fruit. We can be afraid. What if we get hurt? Studying the Bible with people, we invest so much of our life and times into their lives and really give our hearts. And then for the last minute decision for them to, not want to continue in this, that hurts. It genuinely hurts when you pour so much into someone and they don't have the same kind of reciprocation at the end. Or, we can have doubts of trying to help people come to Christ. But what if they fall away? What if they do leave Christ at the end? And I was thinking back in my own life that more people that I've converted have fallen away than have stayed faithful. And that hurts, just to really pour into someone. But it's not even just about me, but to know that, they didn't want to continue their relationship with God and the impact that has. But obviously, that's never the end for them. But it does just leave a sting. I think we can have doubts of, what if I convert them wrong? Did I really make them into a disciple? Am I really teaching them what the Bible teaches? Or am I making them into a disciple of me? Or am I making them into a disciple of the world? Or these kind of things. And so these are genuine fears we can have. Or even, will I be a good disciple? Will I be a good mentor to the person that I'm, teaching about this life? And to be honest, the answer is probably not. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to, give the wrong advice and hurt people and have conflicts and all these things. But that's how we grow. Just like as our parents probably figured out they don't know what they're doing until they kind of got the hang of it. And so, not that I'm a parent, so I don't really know. But as we get older, they chat to us and be like, yeah, we didn't know what we're doing, but you turned out okay. So, it's, I guess, helpful to know that, okay, we all make mistakes and we just grow and learn as we go. So how do we overcome these fears? These fears in our life, whether it is, just about bearing fruit, whether it is about anything else that we go through in life. I really appreciate AJ just getting up here and sharing the challenges of life, but just how she can find that comfort in Christ and overcome whatever it is, just breaking down that barrier through Christ. And so that's really the solution, is to overcome these fears, we look to Christ. Because if you think about it, him going and starting a brand new ministry, going and, challenging Judaism and challenging one of the things they said, there would have been a lot of doubts, a lot of fear that he would have faced. What if no one follows me? What if they don't believe me? What if it fizzles out in 5 years? They're passionate, like, yeah, this is it, and then they kind of just get distracted. They give up. What? God, is this Peter guy really he's really your man? You want to work through this? He smells like, smelly tuna. Like, I don't know if this is really the man you should be working through. There would have been so many doubts in his mind that he just would have been tempted with. And so how did Christ overcome all these things? He prayed a lot. You see here, Luke 6:12-13. One of those days, Jesus went out to the mountainside to pray and spent the night praying to God. When morning came, he called his disciples to him and chose the 12. Chose the 12 whom he designated apostles. And so even before making this big decision of who he's going to use to start his kingdom, he prayed deeply. Mark 1:35, very early in the morning while it was still dark, Jesus got up, left the house, and went off to a solitary place where he prayed. Luke 5:16, Jesus often withdrew to lonely places and prayed. And so the solution to any of these fears we're facing is genuinely through prayer. Because as it says in Philippians, do not be anxious about anything, but in every situation, by prayer and petition, with thanksgiving, present your requests to God. And the peace of God that transcends all understanding will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus. And so here we're seeing the solution to really overcome whatever it is, these fears or these challenges we face in the morning throughout life. And so here, an incredible miracle. Elisha prophesies that she will have a son. A son is born, and yet even throughout God's miracles, tragedy can still happen. Here in 2 Kings chapter 4, verse 18, it continues, and it says, the child grew, and one day he went out to his father, who was with the reapers. He said to his father, my head, my head. His father told a servant, carry him to his mother. After the servant had lifted him up and carried him to his mother, the boy sat on her lap until noon, and then he died. She went up and laid him on the bed of the man of God, then shut the door and went out. She called to her husband and said, please send me one of the servants and a donkey so I can go to the man of God quickly and return. Why go to him today, he asked. It's not the full moon or the Sabbath. That's all right, she said. She saddled the donkey and said to her servant, lead on. Don't slow down for me unless I tell you. So she set out and came to the man of God at Mount Carmel. When he saw her in the distance, the man of God said to his servant Gehazi, look, there's the Shunammite. Run to meet her and ask her, are you all right? Is your husband all right? Is your child all right? Everything is all right, she said. When she reached the man of God at the mountain, she took hold of his feet. Gehazi came over to push her away, but the man of God, leave her alone. She is in bitter distress, but the Lord has hidden it from me and has not told me why. Did I ask you for a son, my Lord? She said. Didn't I tell you? Don't raise my hopes. And so here, just because God worked a miracle in her life doesn't mean that life doesn't happen. She was blessed with a son, and yet the son here feels pain in his head and eventually passes away. So she goes to find Elisha and questions why he put her in this predicament. And this can be us a lot of the time when, we are fruitful and they do decide to stop following God. God, you wanted me to be fruitful. It says, go and make disciples. And now they fell away. What do you want me to do? The heart of, I prayed for this, God, or you worked this miracle in my life. Why are bad things now happening to me? But just as the woman shows here, that if we give up when it hurts, it stops the chance for the second miracle. The woman here could have curled up and wept. She could have given up and started making preparations for the funeral, as any mother possibly would. But instead, she was determined to have her situation resolved. And it was. And in the same way, if giving up after, helping people come to Christ and they're not wanting to do it, helping people want to change their lives and changing for a moment, but not continuing in that. If giving up in that, then we wouldn't have, the people here today. We would give up and not see the next miracle, the next baptism, as we're going to see today with Sharif and Chloe. And so it's pretty awesome to see the perseverance. Yes, it hurts. We go through these hardships and these pains, but the rewards at the end of that, you get to see the second miracle, the third miracle that comes through the tragedy of the first one. And so stopping when it hurts is worse than never starting, because you've already put in so much effort and then it amounts to nothing. So the question is today, are you afraid of the miracle? Point number one, lazy Gehazi. We're going to look at Gehazi and see why was he so lazy and what can we learn from him. So here, Gehazi is the servant of Elisha, and he serves Elisha in various ways. He's kind of his student, his disciple, these kind of things. But we'll look into his story here in 2 Kings chapter 4. Verse 29 to 31, it says, Elisha said to Gehazi, tuck your cloak into your belt, take my staff in your hand and run. Don't greet anyone you meet, and if anyone greets you, do not answer. Lay my staff on the boy's face. But the child's mother said, As surely as the Lord lives and as you live, I will not leave you." So he got up and followed her. Gehazi went on ahead and laid the staff on the boy's face, but there was no sound or response. So Gehazi went back to meet Elisha and told him, "The boy has not awakened." So here, Gehazi, Elisha's student or servant, did not imitate Elisha's passion. Yes, he may have been learning the things and doing the things that Elisha was doing, but there wasn't the same passion and heart behind it. He did everything that his leader instructed. He went and put the staff on his face, as he said, but not in the same way. He imitated his action and not his heart. And you can see that in his response to Elisha's instructions. He comes back and says, "The boy's not awakened. I did what you told me. It's not my fault. It's not on me." And so the question is today, do you have a heart like Gehazi? I think we've all been in this situation. We get to a point where there's no passion. It's a dutiful obedience. I'm doing it because I must. Because my Bible talk leader told me. Because my boss told me. Because Joe told us to have fun this month, so I'm going to go and have fun. Fine, whatever. Or do you have a desire to I want to go out and live life? Would you rather see the lack of results instead of God in situations? And even yesterday, sitting down from 12 to 6 and just calling a bunch of people, calling our old friends. Did you really go after it? Or did you get distracted? Did you, let life get in your way instead of really going after, reaching out to those people that God has put in your life? They're in your phone. They're not in mine. So did you go after it? Yeah. So possibly much like Gehazi, we didn't start out that way. He might not have always been known as lazy Gehazi, but he got there somehow. And so life has gotten in our hearts, gotten in his heart, and really messed up our relationship with God. But what gets us to that point? What gets Gehazi to that point? Firstly, it can be sin. Proverbs 18:9 says, "One who is slack in his work is brother to one who destroys." Laziness either leads us into sin, or we're choosing to be lazy because we're in sin. And so if you've ever had those days where you kind of just do nothing, you don't really leave the house, you don't really get up, you're like, I could be doing something it's my day off, I could be doing something, and you don't really get up and do anything. Do you actually, at the end of the day, leave feeling, I feel better about myself, I feel good about what I did today? It's not usually the case. Usually like, what was I doing? I could have at least done my laundry or something. But I think often we buy into that mentality at the start of the day, and by the end of it, we just regret it. And so sin can often lead us to laziness or vice versa. A lack of faith. Hebrews 10:38 says, "By my righteousness one will live by faith, and I take no pleasure in the one who shrinks back. But we do not belong to those who shrink back and are destroyed, but to those who have faith and are saved." Having a lack of faith takes away our courage. It takes away our boldness. We find it hard to see God working, or we doubt that he is. And we buy into the world's logic and not God's logic. Oh, that's not possible. That's too far-fetched. When you think of many of you here today, you think of how you were brought here. It's not logical. It doesn't make sense. You got a random phone call from a number you didn't know, or reached out to a friend that you weren't really close to. And there's so many situations that should lead you to not being here today, and yet you are, because that's God's power and not human logic. Or maybe you've stopped living for God. James 4:7-10 says, "Submit yourselves then to God. Resist the devil and he will flee from you. Come near to God and he will come near to you. Wash your hands, you sinners, and purify your hearts, you double-minded. Grieve, mourn, and wail. Change your laughter to mourning and your joy to gloom. Humble yourselves before the Lord, and he will lift you up." So when we are letting Satan rule, God isn't. Chasing worldly desires, worldly relationships, worldly success will only put us at a distance from God. I remember when I first became a Christian, just studied the Bible, got baptized, it was awesome. I had a friend, this interest, you could say, someone I really liked. And my hope was, if she studies the Bible too, then she can become a Christian. Then we can get married. And then my whole plan in my little head, it works out happily ever after. And then she didn't want to become a Christian. And then I was like, well, God, but I prayed about it. So what's going on here? And it was really me just chasing after worldly relationships, worldly desires. and not really going after, what does God say on my situation in that regards? And so that's why I just really want to lift up Sharif and Chloe today for their hearts to really go after, well, firstly, getting baptized today is pretty awesome, but also their hearts to do it all by the book, all by what God views. Because the world viewing relationships and how God views relationships are very different. And so to hold on to God's standard, even though, there are so many different emotions and opinions and feelings, is really incredible, especially in today's society. So I really just want to lift you guys up and look forward to your baptism afterwards. And so, yeah, we can get into a spot like Gehazi, lazy Gehazi, and different things can really lead us there. But if this is where you're at today, get open. If you're in this state, you're not actually able to help anyone. You see here, Gehazi was more of a burden than actually a solution. He went and Elisha had to go and do the job for him because Gehazi was like, I did it, but I didn't really do it. So just get open. Really, talk to your mentor, talk to whoever you're studying the Bible with and be like, this is where I'm at, but I want to change. And so how do we change? We'll look at electric Elisha. Point number 2, electric Elisha, a man full of passion, zeal, and most importantly, faith. 2 Kings chapter 4, verse 32 to 37. It says, when Elisha reached the house, there was the boy lying dead on his couch. He went in, shut the door on the two of them, and prayed to the Lord. Then he got on the bed and lay on the boy, mouth to mouth, eyes to eyes, hands to hands. As he stretched himself out on him, the boy's body grew warm. Elisha turned away and walked back and forth in the room. And then he got on the bed and stretched out on him once more. The boy sneezed 7 times and opened his eyes. Elisha summoned Gehazi and said, call the Shunammite. And he did. When she came, he said, take your son. She came in, fell at his feet, and bowed to the ground. Then she took her son and went out. So all throughout this story, you see Elisha as someone with heart, with eagerness, with an attitude of what can be done? What can I do? He tries to speak to the king on the woman's behalf to get her a better living situation, but she says, have her home among my people. He prophesies that she will have a son, so that she would have a bloodline and support when she is old. When he sees her in trouble, he tells his servant, run, go and greet her quickly. When he discovers her son is dead, again he tells, run, quickly go and do what you can. He physically gets involved to help rescue the boy, where he throws himself on top of him because he gives his entire heart. He's like, whatever can be done, I want to give my heart to this situation. And so he was really willing to do what others wouldn't, go the extra mile. And so that's why this campaign is so exciting, because we're going to go to great lengths to save as many people as possible. We spend a lot of our time walking up and down the same streets, the same path at university. You might get a loop in your head and you're like, all right, that's my path. And you can create almost an hour-long track and be like, sweet, I nailed it. But we get into the same kind of routine. And so this month is just exciting to go and do a lot of fun stuff and it all be for God. And I think a great way to start this month, today is the 1st of October, I just feel privileged to have some of my friends come out. Jeremy, the first time he came out to church, I told him, I'm preaching, you should come out and see me. And then he came out and I got it wrong and I wasn't actually preaching. So now he actually gets to come out and see me preach, which is cool. My friend Callum, he's just graduated high school. He's going through his HSC right now. And I can't imagine what Davina's and Callum are going through right now. It's very stressful. But he's just been hanging out with us and really eagerly going after, I want to study the Bible. I don't want to do what my friends do. I want to go after God. And so it's a privilege to have him out as well. CJ, my bank manager, is out here today, which is really cool. And even, it shows I guess, going after just following up. There's people in your phone you're like, haven't even chatted to in months. And they're just like, yeah, of course I want to hang out. So it's a privilege to have him as well. And even if you see a random camera guy walking around that you probably don't recognize, it's my friend Mark, who, Mark, and he's Chinese, just like Mark, who is Chinese. But he's a videographer back in China. He does documentaries and stuff. And so he's really just given his heart to us. He did a whole interview of Mark in Mandarin and put it on Chinese TikTok, and I didn't know that was a thing. But it's really just cool that he just feels so privileged to be in our lives. And we're like, no, Mark, you're the cool one. We're privileged to get to know you. So it's just a privilege to really start the month of fun by having incredible people around. But yeah, what's exciting about the campaign is we can have the same attitude and the same faith as Elisha. You know, I was asking some people, how did the follow-up go yesterday? Making calls, connecting with old friends. And Sean was telling me that Brendan reached out to someone and it was really impacted. He's like, yeah, I would like to come. My church is shutting down and going only online. And so, yeah, he was just really impacted that someone was willing to call him up and be a friend that actually wants to invite him to a physical church. So that's pretty awesome. I think, just Maddie sharing about the different friends that she really interacted with yesterday. Like, the one that was just super thankful. And people were just like, yes, I want to come. I want to be there. And I think, she's catching up with a bunch of them next week. Or even, as a text, it was funny, like you message a lot of people and you don't actually get that many responses right then in the moment. But all last night throughout, it was just people going, my phone kept buzzing and buzzing and buzzing. And it was just cool to see that all of these old people that I haven't chatted to in months or even years are still like, yeah, I do remember you. To us, we probably chat to a lot of people and connect with a lot of people that we don't recognize a name or a face. But to them, they're like, yeah, that was that one guy that talked to me about God for 30 seconds 2 years ago. I remember that. Because, it may mean little to us, but to them it does leave a massive impact. And so this month is going to be awesome, or not, depending on your attitude. And your willingness to really go after having so much fun. For Gehazi, these miracles would have seemed like ordinary days of Elisha asking him to do the tasks he wasn't quite ready to do. Run over and drag your staff is heavy and put it on the kid's face. That's weird. Like it just would have been a lot of tedious things to keep just going and asking people to do things for Elisha. And that could be your month if you want it to be. So, fine, go out and evangelize. Fine, I'll come to ice skating or whatever. That could be you if you want. But for Elisha, it was an opportunity to see God work in every situation. This woman doesn't have a son. How can God work? Her son has now passed away. How can God work? So we need to treat this month in the same way. Let us go around and do as much as we can. Have as much fun as possible and see how God works through all of it. So in conclusion today, are you afraid of the miracle? Point number 1, lazy Gehazi. Time to change from being a lazy Gehazi and be an electric Elisha. The challenge for you, if you've come out today, if you haven't planned the funnest month possible, do it today. If you haven't reached out to every old friend in your phone, do it this week and see God work through the miracles in your life. And to God be all the glory.